Well, let's talk about silver in the new economy. I'm going to tell you some other facts out there that you probably haven't heard, and maybe a couple other things, but I'm going to mix up a couple of things in this video, even unrelated to silver, but could be related to the markets if some of this doom and gloom stuff happens that you hear on YouTube sometimes. I don't want to make a separate video about it, but there's a couple real things out there that I'm going to mention in this video if you pay attention to it. Actually, I also want to talk about, when you're talking about the economy is rosy and everything, and you're hearing about Janet Yellen possibly raising interest rates again, I don't think that's going to happen. Just like the expression says, bro, exactly how high are you? No way in hell is that going to happen. As a matter of fact, there's other experts that are not connected with the Federal Reserve that are even talking about that the Fed might consider negative interest rates because that's already going on in Europe with the central banks, and Europe has talked about negative interest rates even with people's personal savings accounts to try to spur spending, right? Wow. So, bro, exactly how high are you as far as the economy is going? Now, I'm going to tell you the new economy is basically going to be this. Going back to the old economy. You notice on this channel I put a lot of the things out there besides silver, and actually things I hope that would save you a couple bucks here and there. It's a matter of fact, anytime you don't spend money on something, you may not necessarily save it, but then again, that keeps you from getting in debt. And also one of your modus operandis for freaking personal freedom from debt is to make sure you do not get on a debt treadmill. A lot of times people live higher lifestyles and they don't need to. You don't need to live in like the biggest house you could possibly afford or the fanciest car you can possibly afford just to show you got money. As a matter of fact, I can tell you there's some I forgot what CEO is out there. He's worth $500 million. He uses a cell phone from 2003 and he drives a minivan. Somebody if he even had $500,000, not $500 million, they'd be trying to impress people how much money they have. So I think the new economy is actually just going to go back to the grassroots, old American economy that's always been. And to me, a lot of times when you get down in touch with nature and you do things on your own, because even some of the most wealthy people, they get out of touch with things, like Hillary Clinton, for instance. She hasn't even drove a car in, I don't know, a couple decades or done her own laundry probably ever since she was in college or whatever the hell it is. She's so out of touch and so out of touch of reality. It does, even if you got the bucks, it's better to be hands-on anyway. I tell you that right now. And you could save a couple dollars. Too much focuses in on, iPhones and freaking BS that's out there and fluff entertainment that doesn't do us a damn bit of good. So I always try to, bring some reality to the situation and explore a couple different subjects. Now, I'm going to tell you, there's something else that happened here recently. I know I put a video out about Yellowstone. The cauldron could possibly erupt sometimes. Even one of the Russian scientists was talking about, it was a military science academy, was saying that it would be a good strategy to nuke Yellowstone if Russia ever went to war with the United States. Actually, I can tell you right now, it's somebody, there's always something that can happen. Back in 1983 and also in 1990, you would not expect it. That was during times I was in the military too. That we almost went to a nuclear war with Russia. Declassified documents that just came out today, not recently, basically, that showed that we almost went to war with Russia. So, I mean, the situation can change drastically, and, war is one of the things where commodities and gold, which, time of uncertainty, goes way up, and especially oil. So, I can tell you this. Stick with your freaking investment because it is a hedge. And I know it's got taken a hit today because of what the Federal Reserve said. But then again, there's other people out there talking about the Federal Reserve possibly actually even going to negative interest rates. If that ever happened, freaking gold and silver would take off like a freaking rocket probably. I know they're trying to manipulate things no matter what in all the economies. and they're steering the money away from the middle class. Now, I just want to mention something else in this video because there's so many things that can change so fast just due to like even an unforeseen event. I don't know if you know about this, and maybe it's on some of the doom and gloom channels or some garbage, but you heard about the Yellowstone Cauldron, right? And actually not far from there in the Bighorn Mountains in Wyoming, they had a big crack open up that was 750 meters long and 150 meters wide in the earth. Just opened up. It makes you think maybe the Grand Canyon was, formed that way by not just erosion, maybe that was the later years, but basically initially formed by some kind of catastrophic earthquake. Who the hell knows? But to me, that gives me a little pause to think that, maybe the big one's going to hit one time in the West, and we'll have these massive earthquake in Yellowstone and Northern California that's been overdue and stuff. And I'll tell you what, if you want to see economic chaos erupt due to that, I mean, you're not saying if you want to see it, but if it will be a reality. In other words, what I'm saying is that's what will happen. So, having physical assets is very important, not just gold and silver, but also, food, firepower, and fuel, and motorcycles. I can't say enough about motorcycles and Jeeps and trucks and things like that because, these are things that are very practical and, also living in a place that doesn't require a lot of overhead and a lot of taxes, real estate taxes, and all that kind of garbage because, when people, I think that's really 99% of the problem with the economy. People are spending or have spent so much money because they were hoodwinked by marketing and advertising. Like, I put things out about practical aspects of baking soda, practical aspects of with vinegar, and other simple items that people used to use way back in the early 1900s. And somehow they all went out of favor because now you could buy this other stuff for 10 times the price. They keep saying it works better, and it doesn't. And I'm telling you, man, it's like people are just, I don't know, led around the nose by marketing. I mean, it does work. I mean, I guess that's why YouTube has marketing because, it helps drive whatever products these people are paying for. But I can tell you that sometimes the oldest, simplest things are ignored, and they're the best. And, it's a matter of going back to classic things, and classic things as such as silver. And, I think also that the dollar is going to be severely eroded by the Chinese yuan now in the near future, or at least in the upcoming 2 or 3 years. You're going to see a major difference because the Chinese yuan has now been recognized as a special drawing rights world reserve currency. So, basically, right now you got about 60% of the world reserve currencies people invest in the U.S. dollar, but since now that China is officially recognized as a world reserve currency, you're going to see that, hey, there's going to be more people going into it. And now you also see that Russia has been doing direct trade with China, ignoring the dollar and selling China oil, and China's paying for it in their money, their Chinese yuan. So I think the writing's on the wall. It's amazing it hasn't freaking, come down a lot faster than you think. But I could tell you this, if you go to Deagle.com, DEAGLE.com, it's a military site, talks about aviation, military hardware, it's not a conspiracy site, and you look at the population forecast for the United States and Japan especially, but especially the United States, but also even Western Europe. And it's all related to the debt situation, it's all related to how things are forecast, in other words, how things are going to be collapsing here pretty soon. In other words, reality is going to be catching up with the BS. And I think that, when it collapses, I mean, it collapses on the numbers, right? If you're one of these people, you paid, a $250 internet access and phone bill or whatever or more, and you have to have, $2,000 or $3,000 mortgage, and you have a heavy car payment and all this kind of stuff, you're going to be the ones that really suffer. I think the people that are old school, they're going to be okay. So, in other words, there's an economy that is not really measured in numbers that well. It's like almost like halfway trade, halfway barter, halfway DIY, that type of stuff. So, in other words, the new economy, I think, is really going to go back to what the USA has always really been about, except for in the last several decades. And so the new economy is actually just going back to the grassroots American economy. And that just means you got to roll up your sleeves a little more. But that doesn't mean you got to really suffer. Initially, it's suffering because people aren't used to it. But people get used to being in that work mode and that work ethic mode again. And things just go, fine. Now, another indicator that the economy's really sucking, really bad, is that there's another index out there it's called the McCulley indicator, which measures core orders of capital goods, in other words, durable goods, excluding military orders and planes. So in other words, our economy might look pretty good if you're freaking looking at the military-industrial complex, but if you exclude that, it's been at a 6-year low. So that's telling you that the economy really stinks pretty bad. So I'm going to tell you that, to me that's a very true index, because durable goods and capital goods is talking about reinvestment. It's talking about how the average company feels about what's going to happen in the United States. They're not ordering that much stuff. The military-industrial complex is doing okay, but not the rest of it. And you already know there's got a major policy of deindustrializing the United States. So, but like I said, there's a lot of things, and the best thing is to be shrewd enough that you have the stuff, you got the methods, you got the freaking stuff weighed down, but then again, you don't want it on paper. You don't want them being able to see the numbers. And again, that's a reason to have silver. You don't want them to see the numbers. That's important. So let me just leave you with that thought, because, one of the reasons to have silver is basically for an underground savings. And people do not know about it. Nobody knows about it. No officials know about it. And what you can admit to it is you say you got 5 or 10 ounces or whatever. That's it. You don't say nothing. Don't tell anybody shit. Don't show anybody shit. That's number one advice. And I'm going to tell you that we're going back, not to a really bad time. I just think America's just going to go back to the way the hell it always was. It's not. People might find it hard in the beginning, but that's just the reality of how things were. People worked harder, but it was really the same kind of deal that was always the same. It's just that now everybody's not into the real. Everybody's into, electronic entertainment. Everybody's into, sticking their nose in their iPhone or whatever. They're not in the world of like dog-eat-dog survival. And I don't want to paint a bad picture on that, but it's just a matter of work. That's all it is, hands-on work. So, I don't really necessarily always talk about silver on his channel, so I try to give people a lot more practical tips on things to save them a couple bucks or show them how to do things. But, the Illuminati aren't going to win because they're freaking useless eaters, man. I can tell you that right now. What you call the Illuminati, the controllers, the powers that be, they're scared. They're scared. They know their position is very precarious. Just don't ever sell out to them. That's the number one thing. And you notice, I got a pretty hard head on a lot of shit because, when I put out the videos on a batteryizer, I put out one, and I don't know if the product's that good or that bad or whatever it is, but I smell something's up with it because, anytime there's energy is one of the big things out there. I tell you, every company's got a racket. Like the powers that be aren't like this one, what do you call it? small group that controls everything. Actually, there's a number of different groups. You know, you got people in the oil markets, you got people in, the communications markets, and you got people in the tech markets, and everybody thinks they own the world. You know, everybody wants to control the world. You notice I got a pretty hard head on that freaking deal with that batteryizer, and that's really what spurred me on to get that Bedini battery rejuvenator, because I don't know if that product's coming out in November, the batteryizer, and I don't know what the hell those yo-yos are doing over there with that shit. But I personally don't think it's a scam, because there's a lot of people that are getting too far bent out of shape out of it. In other words, well, I don't want to talk about that too much, because I can't see a bunch of PhDs and former CEO of Kmart freaking colluding to get a major $400,000 to take away marketing expenses and run away with the money. I'm smelling that it's possibly going to take a major hit on the battery companies. But I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of shit out there like that, akin to that type of stuff. Free energy, or something like free energy, or better, more efficient energy, is probably really true. I like this guy John Bedini. He's got a lot of cool stuff out there. That Renaissance charger, I think, is going to save me some bucks on the batteries, even though it doesn't save you initially. But I think, I ordered the automotive one, told him to be taking a look at that. But I think there's a lot of stuff out there they don't want you to know. And that's even on healing. It's on a lot of shit. But, it all goes along with silver. Going back to the basic principles. You got silver for a reason, man, because electronic funny money, I don't think is going to last forever, man. They're going to pull the rug out from underneath us all at once. And it may happen unexpectedly. I'm suspecting something up with Yellowstone now, that they did this big giant crack, 750 meters long, which is like, almost, it's about a half a mile, and 150 meters wide, which is over 450 feet wide, that opened up not that many miles away from Yellowstone. It was in Wyoming, in Bighorn, Wyoming. I don't know what the hell's going to happen, man. I don't know. But, I'm not going to put a doom and gloom video about it, but I'm telling you that there's a lot of shit that can happen, and it'll change the economy in a second flat. So you got to be ready for that kind of stuff, man. Something like some Yellowstone blew up, you'd see the markets crash. There'd be no doubt about it, man. No doubt about it. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen, but, don't hold your breath. But there's a number of things that can change drastically really fast. And you being independent and you knowing how to do your stuff on your own, and if the whole world blows up, you'll be fine in your microcosm, your own little area with your own people that are around you, your own family, as long as you got some independence. And that's what counts, right? That's what counts, right? Like old school is the number one. So, anyway, let me just say this. I think the new economy is just going to be what the regular economy's always been in the United States, and we're going back to that. We're getting away from all the bullshit, and the people that got their nose stuck in their iPhones all freaking day, and they're going to have some problems, But you, the people that got silver, and you people that have hands-on, and you people that do, have your food storage, how to do things on your own, you're going to be fine. And that's why I don't strictly put out silver videos on this channel. I put out a number of how-to videos, too. It's a matter of being independent.